Hey everybody, and welcome back to the One Piece Virgins Egghead Book Club podcast, and it's volume 21. That's right, folks, we are old enough to drink. I am Simeon D. Jimmy, joined by a guy who knows a thing or two about that. It's Aggie V. Rodriguez.
That's right, and not just 21 for the drinking age, folks. Now, since we have something called Democracy, 21 to light up a delicious Newport cigarette. But even more important than both of those, well, at least more than the smoking, 21 is that lucky blackjack number. That's right, Ace and the King. And you know what? Maybe we're feeling like Ace and the King right now. You know what I'm saying? That's right, Ace in the hole.
Unfortunately, there is no casino scene in this volume. And what is in this volume, though, is chapters 187 through 195. We get to cover the Sanji fight, the Nami fight, the Zoro fight, and a little hijinks at the palace with Crocodile giving more James Bond speeches. We learn about something called Pluton. Who knows what that means? I'm sure Aggie the Virgin can explain it to us. But Aggie, from this volume, what is top of mind?
Oh, let me think. Which of the fights? Well, you know, I guess to be quite sincerely honest, I feel like all the fights, none of them were so much better than the other to me, but I think that there was a little prediction here that came true as far as the...
Oh, did I finally got something right.
Well, I think the Sanji fight, we might have presumed possibly that there would be some sort of, you know, female visage that was used here in this Sanji fight by Mr. 2 in order to neutralize Sanji's attacks, and well, that was pretty true. Yeah, and you know, I think there might have been some clone boobage popping out as a neutralization effort also.
Yeah, I did write in my notes at one point that we see some titty meat, but I don't know if it was a full-on flashing like on the ship. That probably would have been so super effective. And if he starts flashing bush, oh my god, Sanji would be dead. It's game over. Missed opportunity for Mr. 2 Bon Clay.
Yeah, I mean, I think he basically shuts down and takes some serious punishment at those times before he does find out that Mr. 2 has a little weakness to help make the camouflage, the disguise dissipate just in the nick of time. But
have you been over here while I've been watching Bobobo? Did you catch an episode or two the other night?
Well, yeah, a couple episodes, yeah.
So when I've been comparing some fights to Bobobo, positively and negatively, when Sanji wins his fight with the good old, hey, what's that on your left cheek trick, which makes Bon Clay touch his own face and then transform out of Nami. Is that a Bobobo way to win a fight? And, you know, what do you think of that? Is that too Looney Tunes? Because, I mean, it's funny.
I'm going to say that I think that this was a more measured way from Sanji because he had observed the acrobatics of Mr. 2, and he'd seen this being a recurring thing that was like what was taking him out of his disguise. Versus, I think in Bobobo, he probably would have just been like, "Oh, hey, what's that?" Or, you know, I don't think there would have been a build-up or a precursor to him doing that compared to this fight. So I'm going to give Sanji the tactician badge here comparatively, but
more strategy than Don Patch might be using.
Yeah. But I will say this, though. Maybe in the anime, maybe it's played up a little more cartoonishly. But I think that this is
not the One Piece Virgin podcast. We're not reviewing the anime like that big titty anime whatever bitch. Or not bitch. That's very cruel to women. That big titty anime respectable citizen is what I meant to say.
Hey, maybe that's Mr. Bon Clay. We don't, you know, he's
it's not him. Definitely not him.
I guess, and beyond that, I will also give, the crocodile at the palace scene with Cobra being crucified, basically.
Oh my God.
And, I mean, yeah,
this is not what's up, Tubes. This is goth as fuck. I'm like Satan getting crucified. That's what happened in the Bible, right, guys?
That's right. It's what Crocodile wanted all along. Ultimate troll victory, and well, he really is trolling everybody because he was ready to kill all the rebels too. He doesn't give a fuck.
Okay, here's my top of mind, Aggie. And it's kind of maybe against the spirit, because my top of mind is something that did not appear in the volume, Aggie.
Okay.
There's no Luffy. An entire volume of One Piece where Luffy does not appear at all. And even on the cover, it's all of the villains of Baroque Works. We don't see any of the heroes. We don't see any Luffy. And that's interesting to me to have maybe the restraint to have an entire volume of the manga without the main character. I was going to compare it to Dragon Ball again, because I feel like in the later arcs of Dragon Ball Z, I can imagine there were probably many volumes that he didn't show up, because they create excuses for Goku to not show up till like the last, 10 episodes of a 60 episode arc. So, once again, maybe inspired by Dragon Ball to not have the main character for a long time. Who can say?
Volume 22, we're going to have Luffy with a halo over his head, like, I got to train down here or up here, wherever, to get really strong, and then maybe I'll be able to get a wish from the live fruit to come back to my body.
Do you think there will be a live fruit that brings you back after death, Iggy?
Maybe there's a wish fruit that makes a giant dragon pop up, you
need 7 devil fruits?
I don't recall that I said this before. I think maybe it popped into my mind doing this reading with Miss New Year's. I'm like kind of thinking to myself, all right, at this point I see now moving forward, probably every single notable antagonist is going to have a devil fruit ability. I guess it's some, I don't know, it was like Don Krieg, Arlong, back then, all right, it's kind of here or there. We had Buggy, but at this point, it kind of does seem like as we go into Baroque Works here, and as we are getting towards the conclusion of Baroque Works, unless these guys happen upon a stash of them, and it just seems like we're going to be having everybody having devil fruit powers, which maybe that's completely obvious to everybody who's a non-One Piece virgin, but it's finally really starting to set in, I think, for me with this volume.
Well, think about it this way, Aggie. We're coming up on 200 chapters. And the first 100 chapters, East Blue, again, the word restraint comes to mind for the devil fruits. I think there were only 3, one of which was Smokers that we see like at the very end of that 100 chapters. So Luffy's devil fruit, Buggy, and then like nothing for 80 chapters. How many new devil fruits do we get from 100 to 200 chapters? Like, Jesus Christ, magnitudes of 10. Probably more than we could count on all of our fingers and toes at this point with all these new villains to fight.
Yeah, I think we're averaging probably a couple per volume, maybe 2-3 a volume, I would imagine.
And of course that was intentional because in the East Blue, devil fruits, most villagers think of it as a myth. Like, of course they wouldn't see them every day. They're in the weakest sea. All the strong people with fruits are going to be, hopefully they have better ambitions than Buggy, taking over some shitty little village. Surely they're out on the tougher seas or on the Grand Line. So it makes sense for the world building and for the power scaling as well of the story of, naturally we'll get stronger characters as we go.
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah, the Grand Line, they told them it's nothing to play with compared to what you're used to. They told them, and we're seeing that was absolutely correct, because even beyond that, we're past the the very one-shot, knock them down and gone fight panels. We're past Wapol getting knocked off the ship now. Where Baroque Works, the top brass, they got something to really chew on, especially in this volume. That's basically what the whole volume is about, is just the big bad top of Baroque Works getting busy.
And to conclude my top of mind of Luffy not being in the volume, I want to remake a point I made episodes ago about cliffhangers in One Piece and how I think they could be better utilized, and maybe the live action season 3 will steal my ideas. Hopefully they steal some good ideas instead of all the bad ones they put in season 1. But, Aggie, what if we see Crocodile defeat Luffy, he gets buried in the sand, and then we don't see any more of that scene and all the stuff of him popping his head out and getting saved by Nico Robin? What if we see all that in a flashback later after Luffy is reintroduced to the story at whatever pivotal moment? I'm sure he'll come have his Goku save the day moment. Because between his death and supposed potential future comeback in the story, we have many characters having to test their faith. They're being told, Crocodile's back, Luffy's dead. And what if we were in the same position as the characters? And we would have to doubt it as well. Like, well, we literally saw Luffy get killed. Are we to believe our own eyes here? And we could be in Usopp's position or in Vivi's position when Crocodile's saying, yeah, I killed him, he's buried. Wouldn't it be more impactful when whatever panel when Luffy finally comes back and then we get that flashback? Would that have been better, or am I just crazy here?
No, yeah, I think it would definitely add an additional layer of suspense, like really dial it up.
If there are literally entire volumes of the story where we think Luffy's dead, that's a little gnarly in my mind.
Well, like a good, I think even for somebody, we know that I'm a One Piece virgin, but I know there's a lot of it out there. I don't know what's going on these days, but for instance, what I could say about this volume, it's a little spoiler alert, folks, but Nami, she's fighting Miss New Year's, and there's a panel where all the spikes are just shooting right through like her face, like basically all up and down her body, just like straight up impaling to the maximum. I am still, I'll tell you this much, in my beliefs, I think that somebody in the main cast, main crew, is going to die, and then there's going to be some kind of magical tonic or something. I don't know what. I believe at some point somebody's going to die, and something will happen that they will come back eventually, or maybe they're a little enhanced. They got a little piece in them that's something, whatever. Not important, but so there's still this, even though I know in this larger scale, everything's going to move forward and things are going to continue to happen, people could still die. Something unexpected could still happen to bring us to that conclusion. There's still something in here that I wouldn't know about. And I think that, with it could be played more suspensefully or more high stakes. Because when I see that panel, I do stop and I'm like, okay, here we go. Take a breather, take a second, because something crazy is about to happen. Okay, it was a little bit less so this time, but we could play Luffy in the position he's in, because I couldn't even say for sure. I haven't read the next volume after this yet, so maybe he's down there, maybe he's in the bottom of the earth, maybe the mole people have heard from Miss Four and they're like, we're gonna come up and there's a big avalanche and they're shooting up out of the sand and he gets brought up with them or something. But yeah, they could play it more cinematically, and I think that would be a big boost to the credibility of the live action to do so.
What do you think of Nami's Mirage Tempo, I think it's called? Because the Mirage of Nami that's getting stabbed through like the heart and the brain, it has a shocked look on its face. Like, how the fuck does this shit work that it has expressions and reactions? Is it reflecting what she's doing? Is she acting? I don't get this one. This feels like a cop-out to me just to have that really cool visual.
Yeah, there's a couple points, I think, in this volume that seem to me to have a little bit of the plot armor buff going a little bit heavier.
We'll get to Zoro. That shit's insane. Like,
you read my mind. Are you using the mind read Mirage? The mind read tempo?
I mean, Zoro probably has that power too. It seems like he just got 8 new powers for no reason.
The building fruit. You can lift buildings.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, we'll get to that. We thought Arlong was cool. Jesus Christ.
But yeah, and then there's another part where she's presumably using the Mirage Tempo. I've seen the panel. She's like on the ground, like kind of like back like this, and she's just getting pierced right through. And there's not even, I don't believe in that panel, like any lines of sorts that are like, that doesn't have a little bit more of a wavy outline or anything. It looks like she's just getting killed again. And then the next panel, she just happens to be like 20 feet away, and Miss New Year's like looking down or whatever, so it was the Mirage again. But yeah, I don't want to say Oda necessarily, but it is being played a little loose and fast here, I think, with really everything to do with this fight, because that's another suspenseful part of it, even besides her appearing to be stabbed and mutilated, and thankfully not. but trying to piece together this Tempest baton, this weather controlling weapon, reading the instruction manual, which is kind of reminds me of when you order things off of Amazon and it's in like machine translated English. She's like trying to understand like what he's saying, and it's just repeatedly coming up until the basically last moment, just coming up totally
Well, she was
wrong.
reading the wrong half of the instruction. She was on the party mode when she should have been on combat mode. So really, I blame Nami for that one. She was getting mad at Usopp, but he gave her the ultimate tool for parties and for battle. But we've done both of our top of mind, Aggie, so let's get into some comments and some new members before we go through the volume chronologically. We made much ado about nothing last time, or whichever time. Yeah, it must have been last time with Hachi. He's underwater, and we see this refrigerator, and we're like, well, what gives? Is this the only fridge we've seen so far in the story? Why would it be at the bottom of the ocean? What's going on? Poopy Doopy, who I believe has been giving us a lot of Poindexter takes. He's giving us the information we need, okay? In a respectable way that I enjoy every volume, and keep us honest because we keep making mistakes or whatever. But he says, we do see a fridge on the Going Merry as well as a ceiling fan, toilet, and shower. The schematics are in volume 11 in between the chapters. I think we need a full video rant on One Piece live action. Those interjections were hilarious. So thank you, Poopy Doopy. You will have been promoted on the ship from, I assume we put you on poop deck duty.
Wait a second. Yeah, this guy, he knows plumbing from like the 20th century. Mm-hmm. I mean, because my parents grew up using an outhouse, you know what I mean? So this is pretty recent stuff. All right, Poopy Doopy, that's right. We're not just going to have you being some kind of chamber pot guy. No, this is the Einstein, the that's Tesla right.
He's the One Piece encyclopedia. Imitation. Yeah, he knows everything that if I have a question, he'll answer it. So should we make him head of the poop deck? That's his promotion. Nothing to do with his skill at all. It's just a direct.
I've been saving this for a special day.
Oh my god.
All right. This is the flush fruit, okay? This helps you flush all the nastiness with just a single flick of the wrist. So Poopy Doopy, I'm not going to show it on, it's too powerful. Here, I'm putting it here.
He pulled a turd out of his chest, I guess? I don't know what's going on.
No, that was, I got a pocket up in here, and I was carrying that flush fruit for a special occasion, but there you go.
Yeah, so we'll give you a special fruit as thanks for all your great comments. Keep them coming. I commented that I suspect Smoker overall in the story will have a similar trajectory to Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I pointed out, whenever I bring this up, there's always butthurt people who for some reason don't want the story to be well written and say, no, why would Oda do something that was well written? He wouldn't do that. He should do something else. So we got one of those. Shoe Hunter. I think it would be lame if Smoker went the way of Zuko. He's way cooler as Chaser, and it's not like the Navy is that evil.
Well, I mean, he's kind of the man who broke the mold. As I think we've talked about that a couple of times. Smoker really broke the mold for the quality of character in the Marines. So I won't take that as a spoiler alert. You know, some people, they say, oh, the Army's good, and we've seen what they've done. Okay, I'm just saying. Sometimes not so.
Yeah, Smoker's a cop at the end of the day, and we know all cops are bad. All cops are, if one bad cop's in the bunch, it spoils the whole bunch, okay? They're not locking them up like they should. They're defending them and all that jazz. Cops are no good. The whole system needs to be restructured. They're not being fair. Poor Luffy getting chased down. He hasn't done anything wrong. All he's done is steal a bunch of food from people and kill some people, steal some shit, beat some people up. It's not so bad.
It's just a young brother making away, you know. He came from that island, didn't have anything. You know, he hopped on that ship even though he could sink. And he said, you know what, sink or swim. Drip or drown, #Slimeback.
Yeah, if Django can change the heart of a Marine and become his friend, and now Luffy has literally saved Smoker's life, and Smoker's witnessing all this shenanigans in the cage of who the true villain of Alabasta is. You guys are acting like Zuko is that original of an idea. here's fucking Zuko. He's the bad guy who is hunting down the main character. But then throughout the story, they have encounters and his heart is changed when he sees what a great guy the main character is. And then at the end, he's the ally of the character. Is that really such an original story? Pretty sure you could find some fucking Greek plays with the same shit, motherfuckers. It's not that fucking great. It'd be fine if Smoker became Luffy's ally 1,000 chapters from now. Is that outrageous? Like, it's fucking hinted at in Alabasta, motherfuckers. This was in the 90s.
A less intense, well, I think this was actually in 2001. A less intense version of that would even be like, Pokemon, when he starts off, he's got to fight, Brock is his great adversary, Misty's his great adversary to start off, but
Team Rocket teams up with Ash in the movies all the time. Like, when the going gets really tough and there's an actual third enemy, sometimes the bad guy who chases you becomes your friend. It's common shit. Anyway.
All very fair points. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. And last comment, Truest of Moo says, #Justice for Django. When you guys do the abridged, could Eggy make his voice the black man from the jury duty story? When I saw Django sitting on the stand in that kangaroo court, all I could think of him saying is, "This ain't a game, y'all, this is my life." Now, unfortunately, other than Buggy and Kobe, the anime does not adapt the cover stories. So I don't think there is an animation of Django in court, but that would be ideal if he had the voice of what was your character's name? That real guy?
Well, I remember what his actual full legal name was, which sorry to spoil, folks. This is so niche to this channel that it won't spoil it for most people. I use a pseudonym name that I think I call him like Tyrone Jackson or something. Yeah. So that was actually, and to be honest, it wasn't far off, but he had a slightly identifiable and unique name that was not Tyrone Jackson, but. What we could do, we could have it just slowly pan like over some of the. It wouldn't be very long because we'd only have this much time to work with, maybe to get a couple lines out. But to pan over the stories like a storyboard, we could maybe interject that in there somewhere wherever it fits. I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Well, let's do a sample scene. Okay, we'll do when Django is threatening Kaya. You need to sign this or I'm going to kill the kids. Okay, I'll play Kaya. You play Django as Tyrone. No, please! No, I'll do anything, just don't harm the Usopp pirates!
Listen, Kaya. You have got to overstand my mental. Kuro!
He might be the black cat, but I'm the black dog, you know what I'm saying, brother?
I tried to put him on, to how we... The Black Cat Pirates, we are the gods of the sea. We make our own destiny. I come running over here trying to get some of the white girls' money, man. But it don't gotta be like that. You gotta understand that you gotta take all the supreme mathematics, man, of the sun, the earth, the stars, sky, man, and realize we got everything we need right here. What is this berry? Man, don't y'all know berries come out the earth? Don't you know you gotta take them out of bush? Man, and you pick them out of tree? Man, so why they saying this is like dollars and gold and all that? Berries? Man, think about it.
And Luffy's like, hey, this ain't a game, y'all. This is the pirate life. That's right. That was his message to Kuro. Okay, we've taken care of all that business. Should we dive through some of these fights, Eggy? Or should we go through the cover story of Hachi? We have not really talked about that yet.
Well, I'll just say this. You did say comments to new members. Were there a new member?
Oh, you're right. You're right. That's probably important. There are 2 new members. I'm so glad you reminded me, Eggy. I'm what you call a bad host. Oh, we have Mr. Kiyu. Kiyouu.
Kiyouu. All right. Sounds like a samurai to me.
Yeah, we don't have too many swordsmen, do we?
I don't know if we have any, so there we go. At least we got one.
And we have Shoe Hunter. Sounds familiar.
All right, a cobbler, is that what they call those? Man who cobbles shoes?
But that's a shoe maker. This guy hunts them down. Maybe he hates them.
Listen, when you're on the line, what's our ship called again?
The Virgin Mary.
Yeah, when you're on the Virgin Mary, okay, you're not just an ordinary anything, all right? This man, he's a shoe cobbler, but he is hunting for the greatest footwear that he's been over there in the village. Oh, level 1 shoe, level 1 shoe, level 1 shoe. He needs to see something bigger and greater. He's going to be seeing those Balenciaga shoes that have like giant points shooting up in the sky. He's going to have Mr. Two's swan shoes. He's doing a replica of them. We're all going to wear them. The swans are going to be going like this, just knocking we don't have to fight anymore. They're just going to be like on auto mode as we walk forward. There's going to be hitting everything. So
yeah, those swan shoes, are those the most powerful footwear we've seen in One Piece so far? Fucking like, he said it's as strong as a bullet, but with the diameter of his fucking toes.
That's
a good shoe to hunt down.
So that's why he's the shoe hunter.
Okay, so shoe hunter, yeah, your name is your title as well. What do you think of Hachi and his little adventure do you remember the episode of Malcolm in the Middle when Hal causes like a train accident and the whole town has to live like in the gymnasium of the school or something? And one of the kids is probably Reese. He has a little adventure where he has a shitty item and he trades it up, and then he trades that for something else, and he keeps trading up until he's running like a black market out of the shelter. And that reminds me of Hachi's adventure so far. It's like a trade-up story, I think is what they call them.
To be fair, I very vaguely remember that Malcolm in the Middle episode. Just
me too. I don't remember even which character did it. But.
I guess the biggest trade-up story that I could think of, I'm sure you might be familiar with, like the paperclip to a house.
Yeah, that happened in real life, right?
Yeah, like 20 years ago or whatever, the guy went around and documented it.
Yeah, that's crazy. But, like, didn't he trade something for a film role, and then he traded the role in the movie? I don't know if you can trade that. Like, the casting department's going to be pissed.
Well, it was probably a novelty moment, like, pretty silly and funny, haha. I mean, this obviously was not some film with probably a lot riding on it, and if he had been some total freak that was showing up and ruining the entire set like those Three Stooges did in the classic hit movie Maniacs, then probably they would have just shut him down. He would have had to have gone to another studio until, for all we know, I mean, I don't know if I ever read the book. I think I just read like a news article about it. Maybe he did get shut down a couple times and just made it happen eventually. But anyway, Hachi, he is not getting shut down. He is going and making this work for him. And frankly, I'm very proud of him. You know, I think he did deserve better than where he was at when we actually had him as a, in-story character. I think he seems a lot more at peace and a lot other than, the whole giant monster thing. But the giant monster thing turns out to a great risk, great reward, because we have the Nami Mermaid. I don't know.
The Kami the mermaid and Papagu the starfish pop out of the sea boar at the end here, but let's go through it chronologically, okay? We start off, last volume, Hachi, he helps a guy, the guy's thankful and gives him some meat. Now this volume, he takes that meat, he finds a starving man on an island, and he gives the starving man his leftover food. What a kind-hearted soul. And what does a starving man on an island not need? Treasure and jewelry. We learned that from Zeph and Sanji all those years ago. So he trades the meal for a ring, and where does it go from there? Some fucking goldfish princess lost her ring or something.
Oh yeah, right. Yep. Yeah, I think the goldfish lady who has what appears to be like a 18th century wig of some kind, so hey, that sounds royal to me. Yeah,
he trades that for a trident, which then he uses to attack a monster to save He attacks a monster to save a boar, or is it the other way around? I don't remember. But either way, the thing that was saved, then out of its mouth pops this mermaid and the starfish. And that's the end of it right now, right?
That is correct, yes. The final chapter of Volume 21 has the dank Rasta starfish and, whatever her name is. Right now she looks like Nami the mermaid as far as I'm concerned, so maybe Hachi will bring her up on shore. Maybe they'll transform like Prince Andrew or Prince Eric or whatever his name is from The Little Mermaid and live happily ever after in some sort of just only relatively fishy happily ever after.
In the previous volume, when he's being gifted the meat, we see a calendar that has a mermaid on it. And now this volume, we're seeing a real mermaid. Is this the first actual mermaid character we've seen so far? Did we even know that they existed for real yet?
If you had asked me to question their existence when we'd only seen the calendar, I would have not believed it, to be honest, because we've seen what a fish man looks like, and they're really freakish and not at all like, a merman. So if there's mer people and fish people both, yes, that would be I guess it is the truth. We see it. But yeah, this is a new and interesting development to me.
And really, is there anything else to say about this cover story? It just feels like a lighthearted romp of a good-hearted guy who might have got in with some bad people in his past, but he's trying to make up for it. He's feeding the hungry and giving rings out to people who are crying, basically for free, and saving people's lives. So, you know what? Hachi redeemed in my eyes already. Why not?
Parallel to our to the Django cover story, and the fact that this is somebody who, in story, they were only shown to us as being the bad guy, but once we really get to see that slice of life for them, we understand that they're just out here having fun and trying to make the best of their situation. Maybe they didn't get all this silver spoon treatment to be some kind of royalty or some kind of do-gooder right off the top. They had to do what they had to do to make a living, and they're out there and just living life, even when they're outside of the criminality.
Yeah, the One Piece world is much like ours, it's a tough world to live in, and most people, maybe not most, but a lot of people take the easy route of being a criminal, and crime does pay. You pay off the Marines like Arlong did, so crime does pay. So the fact that he's being kind-hearted, there's no benefit to this. There's no reason to do that in this world. It just really speaks to his character. I like that. Are you ready to talk about Mr. 2 versus Sanji, which we may or may not have done a time or two on the PlayStation 2?
Yeah, what was interesting to me? So I think we talked about this on the last volume, because directly preceding that recording, I had dabbled a teeny bit in the PS4 One Piece Burning Blood game, and just only played the characters that I was familiar with, just to test the gameplay mechanics out. But I can say there is a character in that game that it was like clone Nami, and I had no idea what that meant. But now I see that. So that's kind of an interesting choice for a character for a fighting game. That
was on the DLC page. I might have paid for a pack of characters that included that. Who could say? I've tried to buy every single DLC, and there's still a bunch of empty ones. I think you could play as Rob Lucci, but I don't know if you can buy it anymore is the problem. So, since the game's almost 10 years old, I think some DLC is just missing for life.
Mm-hmm. Well,
too bad. I got my Garp in there, though. I had to buy Garp because it's fun to play as Garp. And we should mention, we did say last time, we're going to start playing Burning Blood. No more, because last time we looked up, is there a duck race minigame in any One Piece game? And that sent us down a whole new rabbit hole. Aggie showed me how to set up a PS2 emulator on my computer so I could play One Piece Grand Adventure. Basically a direct sequel to One Piece Grand Battle, and a game that if I had as a kid would have been life-changing. Fuck One Piece Grand Battle. Who needs it? This is the game I should have been playing as a kid. If only I would have had it. It has all the characters from that game, plus so many more. and a bunch of mini games and an RPG mode, and you can level up. I've been having a lot of fun playing it just in my free time, and it's so much harder. Like if I try to do a grand battle, 5-guy in a row thing on normal mode, it's about as difficult as the hardest difficulty on the other game. So it's making me improve my skills, which I don't know if that's good news for Aggie, but he's probably gonna beat my ass in this one.
I'll have to get back on it because once I figured out that PS2 emulator also ran on my laptop, I put on Soul Calibur 3, which, to be fair, I don't know if it's because I started playing as Cassandra for my first playthrough. Seems a lot harder than I remember. Last time I think I played through a single player Soul Calibur was actually 2, and that has like some kind of... But anyways. But yes, I need to get in there and get my practice again because even before you were practicing at all, you were still kicking my ass. So
should we do a stream where it's just 2 full hours of the duck race minigame and we don't do any combat? Is that what the people desire? Post a comment below if you would watch us play that for 2 hours.
I think they come for the atmosphere, the cozy conversation, and ducks racing each other is just the icing on the cake. Am I right, comment too?
If we're doing a full duck race marathon, I think the atmosphere will not be cozy. It will be very tense and angry because I will be determined to be the duck race champion. I care about that more than any stupid fighting game, more than my love life, more than my reputation as a man. I would rather be good at the duck racing game than any of that. So it's gonna be tense, Aggie. You might want to bring some boxing gloves just in case. We'll have to settle it like men if things go awry.
Wanna go?
I've been practicing and I fall off the fucking dock every time. I can't stay on the dock it's too hard, Aggie. These fucking ducks.
I don't think that happened at all. Didn't we do like 3 races? I don't think that happened at all when we were doing it.
It did. I kept falling off when there's no railing on the wood. It gets too narrow.
Side of the map. Well, that's just you gotta what is it? Your drag. So like when you have you're coming up, you have your momentum. This is also very fact and logic volume, by the way. I feel good like with Nami's scientific breakdown of everything and like the weather. So this all fits. So like when you're coming, you have your acceleration like this or whatever. You have to maybe come in tighter to the inside here, whatever. Because let's say you're going and then you have this momentum when you start applying that change of direction, the drag. I don't know all the mathematical equations, but basically it's gonna your character is gonna swing a wider range due to the fact that it's already got this much momentum and it's coming around, it's applying this direction. So you're gonna have this wider arc, and then that's gonna lead you to fall off this over here. So you gotta try and you might need to decelerate a little bit and then come in tighter to those turns. I think that, it's just a matter of time. You'll be getting it easy.
You think the Karu duck race minigame has a proper physics engine?
Absolutely, yes.
I hope so. We need to dive through these fights, and thankfully fights don't take too long to talk about, but we got a bunch of them. So to backtrack before I started talking about video games, what did you think of the fight with Bon, Clay, and Sanji?
I think that in this fight, we see they are definitely physically matched. In fact, I guess...
Yeah, there's direct mirror shots of them, like their legs in direct opposing mirrored setups and sending each other flying into buildings.
Yeah, and they also, Mr. 2, his whole thing is he's very, as Oda says, he's iffy. So he could really be he's iffy. He's theatrical. He's flamboyant, and so his attacks, they are very special. They have names, and they're all very his "Oh Come My Way" karate. It's really got a plethora of unique special moves. It ain't just some standard kick punch. Okay, and in the same way, Sanji, his kicks all have those cooking derived or cooking adjacent names also, such as the mutton shot, as we see here to start us off. I think is the first named attack that he does here in chapter 187. But So I guess it's not unusual. I think that probably happens. I know that Zoro, he's calling out names for his attacks and stuff too, but I think
it just shows that they're at a higher level of battle, that like all these attacks have a name, like that's how powerful they are.
Yeah. There's almost a bit of like a parallel romance here, and I don't mean like, kissy smoochy. I mean like these guys are just very dramatic. They're both dramatic kinds of guys, and I think that they're really very samey in their combat style, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
I liked at the end when there's a hint of camaraderie among enemies that Bon Clay is offering, and then Sanji just beats him up again. Like, he leaves him alive, but he takes back the goggles and gives him one more good kick to the face. There's some other funny parts in the fight. Mr. 2 wants to use his transformation powers to create the most freakish person imaginable and take all the worst traits from everybody he's ever stolen the face of and combine them to shock Sanji. Within the face is just like his normal face with Usopp's nose. Sanji says, yeah, that's 90% you, dude. He's crying in the mirror. That was pretty funny. That had, I got a good chuckle out of that. At one point, go ahead.
That's pretty tough because, we've seen him interact with a certain amount of people, but you would think as number 2 in Baroque works that he would have, they were in a lot of places, in contact with a lot of people, that they would have somebody more freakish than what Mr. 2 looks like, but I guess it might be a little harder to come by than we thought.
Is this the psychology of a trans person? Is that what they see in the mirror they think is freakish and wrong, and that they need to change it to be the opposite gender, right? Like they're not comfortable with how they are.
That's pretty. Yeah, if he had said, "I want to be,"
it's a matter of opinion of who looks freakish, and I guess in his opinion, 90% of him is the worst.
Yeah, you know what? That is probably a deeper and more well thought out evaluation than anybody's ever had about that. So,
yeah, especially for just what was a joke.
Yeah.
And Mr. 2, at one point, he's crying, and then Sanji attacks him, and he says, "Have you no feelings? Are you made of stone?" But it seems pretty clear to me Sanji has a lot of feelings. So
I wonder if there's such a thing. I thought about this outside of the reading here also, but he was in this very volatile environment when he was young. He was out on the shipwreck in the island with Zeph, out there for all this time. He had to come back and earn his chops among the greatest crap cooks, crap pirates, and crap geezers that the East Blue's ever known. And so he's very stoic there. But then anytime that there's a woman around, he just goes so fully simpish, full bore, cartoonishly romantic. Is it perhaps that's his way of maybe showing his emotion, and he can't really show it those other ways?
Like you were saying, both of these guys are. You didn't use the word flamboyant, but maybe they're more theatrical with their emotions than other people in their crews, perhaps. Mm-hmm. As for Sanji's extreme simpery, it probably is like just growing up around men on Zeph and all the other chefs. There's probably very few women that Sanji really got to come into contact with. So yeah, that's probably a good way for him to vent out some of these stronger emotions. And also in fighting, because he gets very passionate and fiery with his fighting moves and his named attacks.
That's right.
At first, we think Mr. 2's strategy of transforming will not work because he turns into Usopp and then Sanji beats the shit out of him. And Sanji says, "You're an idiot if you think I'd fall for your goofy illusions. It's what's inside that counts." And Mr. 2 thinks this is a very cool attitude. Now, Eggy, is this a pro or anti-trans statement? You're an idiot if you. It's what's inside that counts is the message. Is that because these people want to change the outside of them?
Well, Well, it's kind of a tough. I think you could probably break it down either way, but because if you're what's inside the Kansei, you're already you, so yeah, don't worry about what's on the outside. And I think that I don't have a great deal of education in this topic, but I think there are something called true scum or something, where they might have a full Santa Claus beard or whatever, but they say that doesn't matter because I think is a segment that is out there.
It's got to be. There's got to be a segment of every type of belief out there. There's 8 billion people now, they say.
Yeah, but I would think maybe in the greater overall discourse, there's something about being affirmed and affirmation, and you get affirmed by resembling on the outside how you feel you should, or how you see yourself on the inside. So yeah, I think there's just multiple factions out there of people in the around these lifestyles that could really take it anyway. So
once again, we might be thinking too much about this, because it is a setup for another joke where then he said, "Oh, it's what's on the inside that counts," and then Bon Clay turns into Nami, and suddenly that's not the case because he cannot strike him while he's as Nami. And you might be wondering, why do you keep bringing up all this trans shit? There's nothing in the material about it. Well, as the non-virgin here, let's just say perhaps Sanji's relationship with the trans community is something that is evaluated several times throughout the entire story, and it, more or less starts here. So this is not just a random thing I'm talking about. This is very much part of Sanji's story. And it's not a coincidence that he's fighting the trans guy all the way back in Alabasta. So just keep that in the back of your mind, folks. But yeah, he transforms into Nami, and then Sanji goes full sicko gooner mode. And Mr. 2, he knows he's got him now. And meanwhile, at the end of chapter 187, that's right, we're 50 minutes in almost. We're only on the first chapter of the volume, but don't worry, we'll go through them quick. Vivi has the same attitude as King Cobra. She's like, you know what? Fuck this palace. It is the people's palace. Let's destroy it. At the very least, that will distract them long enough to stop the fighting, and then that's when I can go interfere. So fuck this palace. Fuck the royalty. This is for the people. Destroy it all. And Chaka, I think, one of those guys, recognizes King Cobra and Vivi. And he's like, you know what? We got to do it. But homeboy Crocodile, he has a problem with that. But he doesn't quite come in yet. So we'll get to that after we finish the Sanji fight.
And I have to say, to think about it, I think that she's making the right call there, because it's very detrimental to your kingdom's legacy to destroy this building, but at the same time, if you're going to suffer mass casualties in your populace, and you have somebody who's coming up on you anyway to try to overthrow you, if they overthrow you, usurp the castle, damage it in some aspect anyway, basically the legacy will die there. At least if you have this opportunity, you could rebuild from that destruction. So good call, Vivi. Good call.
That is one of the ongoing themes of One Piece that you have nailed so early on, Eggy, is that rebirth and all that needs to come from destruction. So a shout out to the entire One Piece world probably getting destroyed at the end. Who can say? Got to rebuild from something. I had one point I was about to see. What was it? Something about Vivi that you were also saying, but I forgot it. So maybe it'll...
King Cobra's in VV. Chaka says, let's destroy it.
I'm sure it'll come back to me when we go back to that. But meanwhile, chapter 188, my first note says Mr. Toonami starts exposing some titty meat, which I think we were teasing a bit earlier.
Top of mind.
Yeah, and at this point, Sanji's just pretty much getting beaten bloody, and we see that these swan beak slippers are like bullets kicking through the walls. So if Sanji gets hit by this, he's fucked. And he pretty much is fucked. Like, this is the bloodiest we've ever seen Sanji. And realistically, how many fights has he even had? He fought Jin, but he basically lost, right? Like didn't he? That didn't work out so good. He didn't even finish the fight with Pearl, did he? I don't. Did he? Pearl got like hit by a mast or something weird. I don't remember. He got like Luffy thrown at him.
He went self-destruct mode, and I think the collateral damage handled him. It might have been one of the first precision strikes that damaged. He got punched or whatever. He got damaged, then he self-destructed. I'm a little foggy on it, I'm not gonna lie.
At Arlong Park, he has pretty much a real fight, but mostly it's underwater, and he mostly wins by just blowing air into the gills. Kureha doesn't let him fight. He gets lost at Little Garden, doesn't fight. So this is like basically the second actual Sanji fight we've gotten, almost 200 chapters in. And he's beaten horribly, bloody. Like, it's such an even match that they're both at the limits of their endurance, really. And it's like they're both shocked that the other guy is still going.
And, to bring that point up, and with how he is able to secure the victory here by just being having his wits about him, and he's able to employ this tactic by just observing. Really, they're having this stalemate, even fighting. This is a great way that you want to be able to come and face, and then come back, and then bring back. You're able to pick up on those smaller hints in your opponent's demeanor during the fight, and able to kind of work it, since we were just talking about the Barati and the slight cracks in Don Krieg's armor that then caused the great explosion. He's coming back, and he's able to glean these small things and able to build up on his knowledge of his opponent until he finds that sure thing in the touching his cheek to make his disguise not functional anymore, and then that's able to help Sanji break past his mental barrier and deliver that final blow down to the ground. So, yes, is it comparable to a Bobo fight? That is my final evidence that it is
the character
not.
Design 100% is, but in a positive way. And then Bobo also will sometimes just say that this villain is just a calendar. Like, it's just a calendar, like not even with the face. I did remember the point I wanted to make about Vivi, and I almost should just leave it behind, but here it goes. Do you think that Vivi, and therefore Oda, might agree that, the palace, the Capitol buildings, they do belong to the people? And if a bunch of protesters want to storm it, I think they have every right to do so. It's their capital. They pay the taxes, they pay the royal fees or whatever for the king. Vivi's right. Let's destroy the Capitol. Let the people do whatever they want with it. Do you agree, Eggy?
Hey, all I'm saying is there's two people showing up. You got the rebels and the military showing up. And if you ain't picking a side, then sit your butt right down on that fence over there. Okay, we got real people with some real something behind their words and actions in this building, and possibly strolling around by a nice little fabric rope. Maybe grandma's there. Maybe there's a guy carrying a trophy or something. I can't say. He might be wearing horns anyway.
Do you think when King Cobra returns to office next volume, he's going to pardon all of the protesters who were storming the Capitol?
Well, to be honest, I think that he's going to have compassion for his populace regardless. Now, he might...
I just don't think it was right for King Cobra to pardon Vivi after Vivi had all that shit on her laptop. Like, that's pretty unforgivable.
Hey, listen, you know what? She
now King Cobra is Trump and Biden in my metaphor.
She ran off to Whiskey Peak. She was being compensated handsomely, $80 million berries and dollars, or whatever it was. Who knows what kind of parties are going on Whiskey Peak? And frankly, also, I don't think she's 18 years old, according to Oda. So maybe
give her a blanket pardon for anything she did from, let's say, 2014 to now. That might seem like a long period to pardon your own son or daughter, but especially if you were a vice president for 2 of those years. But it is what it is. So Sanji wins the fight, and did I not write down? Oh yeah, Mr. 2, after he's defeated, he says, "This man is living proof of grudging respect between enemies," and then that's when Sanji kicks him in again to take Usopp's goggles back. Very beautiful. I'm sure we are going to, probably in this episode actually, rank the Alabasta fights. So far we've had Luffy and Crocodile, Usopp, Chopper versus those two, and now this. Is this the top of the heap? Is it the middle? Is it the worst, Aggie, so far? Or should we wait until we have evaluated the next two as well.
Yeah, we should probably wait. I know where it is now for me.
Well, let's hear it then. Fuck it. Let's hear it.
All right, from top to bottom right now, I'd probably say Chopper and Usopp versus Mr. Four and Miss Moly Mole. Then I would put Sanji, Mr. Two, and then probably Luffy, Crocodile. Just for I've said this, and I'm going to continue saying it. It was not a particular substantial fight at this time. You know, like, it was cool, and I liked, you know, it was intense, and Luffy lost, so that's something unique about it. But it just wasn't as substantial as the other fights to me. Therefore, at this time, I'm having it at the bottom. If it's like Luffy, Crocodile Part 2, I'm going to score that separately.
Oh yeah, we'll score Part 2 separately. But if I recall, Luffy Crocodile Round 1 is about 3 full chapters, and I think Usopp fight is also 3 chapters. I think this Sanji fight was 3 chapters, and Eggy, am I wrong here? Is the Nami fight 4 fucking chapters, and the Zoro fight's only 2? Fucking did Nami's shit not last forever? Because it's just so many gags thrown into the fight, and so much of reading Usopp's manual. I have to double check my notes. Was that 4 fucking chapters of just Nami getting stabbed? Let's see, chapter 189, we have Nami being chased by both enemies while crying and screaming no, because Mr. 1 says, guide to killing, rule number 1, crush the weaker target first, but then of course Zoro comes in and saves her at the last second, and they can split off and fight their respective opponents. And then from there, I feel like it's 4 chapters of Nami fighting. Yeah, it totally is. Like, if the fight officially starts at 191, she doesn't win it until maybe yeah. I don't know, Iggy. So anyway, it doesn't matter. It's very long, but Nami doesn't really get too much action anyway, so she deserves the extra chapter if she got it. What did you think of this fight?
Well, you know, let's see. Nami versus Miss, I was gonna call her Miss New Year's. Shout out to all the New Yearsers. She is, I guess I hadn't really thought to myself about how little she's had with as far as combat's concerned. She's really more of the evasive type. I think I probably played too many Nami fighting games in the interim since, since our long park to kind of have that locked in. So I gotta say, it's a fine fight. You know, it's,
doesn't go on too long. And now that I'm double checking, the fight does start at 190 and end at 193. So that's four chapters of Nami dealing with Miss Doublefinger.
I'll say, like, while it's ongoing, it is it's suspenseful, but it's kind of suspenseful almost in a almost in the wrong way. I don't know. It's a fine fight. I don't have anything against it. But it's just like, kind of toying around with her weapon, and she's just kind of ducking and dodging the spike attacks, and she does get hit, once in the ankle. It looks like she gets hit in the Achilles heel or something. It looks really painful, actually.
Yeah.
So she does get hit with the spike. It just kind of seems like we have a lot of this repeating thing going on where she's there and Miss New Year's like, and now I'm really done toying with you, and here we go. And she goes, duck out of the way. All right. Well, now I understand. Baton, go. And then it does something that it's not supposed to do. And then, Usopp, you stupid. What did you give me?
Yeah, that happens like 4 or 5 times. It is a little much. I do like the character beat, the comedy beat from Nami. It reminded me of back in Whiskey Peak when they drew the illustrations of them, and Nami's like, oh, so cool. And then she like freaked out and realized that it's a problem. The same thing happens with the baton here. Like, maybe pigeons will fly out, and at first Nami's like kind of laughing along with it, and then like throwing it on the ground with the spiky teeth all mad. I like that, a little return to that. sort of flavor. But otherwise, yeah, too many times. We get it. And it's her fault. Like I said, she's reading the wrong half of the instructions. He clearly labeled this is party mode and this is fight mode. But I guess when you actually consider what the baton can do of the little heat bubbles and cold bubbles that you can affect the weather with, and I guess you can create mirages, create winds, create some sort of tornado, create lightning, and you were saying that you like the science behind this. So is this all legit, or is this just cartoon nonsense?
Well, just like everything else that I think of scientifically, I don't know any of the actual logic behind it, but it seems sensible enough. Like, I know.
Thank you, Dr. Fauci.
When it's really cold outside and the heat wave comes through, it makes a storm. So, you know what? I can tell you that. I actually was a certified card-carrying storm chaser. Well, how do they say it? There's the National Weather Service has something where if there's like a reported storm and you're like you have like a certification with their program, all you got to do is just basically call them and give them your information to sign up. But you'd go out to like the funnel cloud or whatever, and you'd call into them like all reported off the ground. So I know a little something about storms, just a little bit, and yeah, I think once. I mean, I'll give Usopp this much. Excuse me. In fact, and he's not even responsible for her misunderstanding the weapon at all. But the potential of this weapon, once we start seeing what it does have the capabilities of, with generating basically different forms of energy, that's actually extremely powerful. I mean, there's really nothing out there that is existing like this that I think we've seen at all. The devil fruit has, certain things that people can do from eating it, but this is really a scientific mastery on an entirely new level as far as I'm concerned.
And it seems that Usopp doesn't even realize the potential of the weapon. I think at one point, like Nami even says, like, he doesn't even realize it could do this. He thought that this would lead to another party trick, but it led to some massive attack. Was she talking about the lightning bolt or the eventual tornado tempo? That and it's kind of hard to. The attack is like shoots her away, and she's like spinning at the same time. And I like when you see the holes she made through buildings. Like her body is in different positions every time to sell that in an illustration, because really that sort of thing should only work in a animated sort of way. So I guess this, I mean, she gets hit by lightning and she's pretty much fine. Like she tanks it and she's going to kill Nami again. And then the impact of blasting through all these walls, I guess, was enough to defeat her. Were you satisfied with that? That really she was only hit with two kind of major attacks, but
I think it makes sense because, this is something maybe with her spiky exterior that could have done more to be a defensive play for her in the average physical combat. But when she's facing this sort of energy combat that nobody's really seen before, that's really a good counter to her defenses. And so I could see that, the electrocution and then subsequent, smashing through a wall. I think that would be a good combo. Like, you kind of stagger somebody. She's probably working with just the most baseline processes after being electrocuted. So I think that smash would have been enough to just really knock her out fully.
And I just realized that her character is a pretty good parallel with her match of Mr. One, where they both have a devil fruit that just makes their body really sharp. And then they're both kind of glass cannons, because I guess Mr. One technically was killed by one hit. Like, Zoro only actually cut him once, and that was enough, right? Unless the fight continues, but seemed pretty decisive in that final page to me. I don't know if there's much more to it next time.
Yeah, if I'm telling you, any manga or anime or anything that has a panel with a swordsman and he's like doing the rush past you and like going like, and then you're in the background with like a jet stream of blood shooting up in the sky. That's like, that's the oldest trick in the book,
Yeah, he better be defeated or Oda's lying to us with the language of anime. Is that anything else from the Nami fight, or should we move on to Cobra and Crocodile and all our friends?
I think we covered it pretty good. Yeah, we can move on forward.
One thing, when it shows the flashback to them on the ship and Usopp is making the weapon, I thought, if anything, that would have been a good time to put Luffy in. Like, a flashback on the ship, maybe Luffy pokes in his head, oh, hey, Usopp, what are you guys doing? But no, it didn't even do that. He really wanted us to miss Luffy here. And it was felt. I did miss Luffy. But what do you make of Croc reveals his true intentions of coming to Alabasta specifically?
Well, I think this was part of the top of mind. What is this Pluton? Is this what it was really all about this whole time? You know, basically the nuclear launch codes of their era.
Yeah, he says specifically Pluton, one shot of it can vaporize an entire island to smithereens. Like, as a Japanese writer, you don't take that shit fucking lightly, do you, Oda? Like, that's a pretty big deal. Yeah,
and he's really, I mean, I think I spoke on this a volume or two ago, but the tactician mindset that Crocodile employs to really just have everything taken care of at every level. Now, unbeknownst to him, there's certain things going on with his Baroque Works members outside of his immediate area, but you know, he handled Luffy. He's not worried about. He's not even thinking about those other Straw Hats. They're all puny to him. He's got this Civil War, his Cannon Man with the Baroque Works symbol. He made sure that the provocation went all the way, so they're ready to just go at all war. They're all distracted. Nobody's looking at him. It's the perfect time for him to get his hands on where this real power is. And also him looking for was a log pose of some kind. I forget.
Poneglyph.
Oh, Poneglyph. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, and that's I think a new concept for One Piece. Was that familiar to you? We haven't seen anything about Poneglyph before. In the filler of the anime, when they have Ace joining them walking through the desert, there is part of the filler where they fall through some sand, and then in an underground cavern in the desert, there is a poneglyph, but that's not canon, and it's not written in a language they can read anyway, so it's whatever. But
yeah, I guess when I think of poneglyph, I'm thinking of like, glyphs. That's like
hieroglyph.
Yeah, like a rune, some kind of inscribed message on some item, I guess. So I'm thinking, like, I guess mentally I just put it together with something like a log pose, like this is an artifact of some kind that has instructions or directions, and that's probably not what it is.
Vivi says a poneglyph is a record of history.
Oh yeah. Okay, that maybe that's where I was thinking of it from. Yeah, like a historic. In the same way, yeah, it's a navigational tool, maybe, but I guess maybe it was more of a educational item instead. Mm-hmm. Either one of them, for sure.
And the existence of this Pluton, which, I mean, are we getting the same from plutonium? Like, are you dead on with this nuclear power sort of thing? Like, maybe it sounds about right to me, Pluton. This is like a secret that has been passed down with the kings of Alabasta through the generations, and I always enjoyed this sort of thing, especially in stories where like the internet doesn't exist, which is basically real life up until 30 some odd years ago. But like the information, secrets of the past that you just pass down through oral tradition, and you keep it a secret, and I don't know. It always intrigues me. They have stuff like that in Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, and that's sort of the main appeal to me for that. And now we have that here, and Crocodile, brings it up by name, and Cobra is like horribly offended and disgusted, and he calls him a scoundrel. Where did you hear about that, you fucking scoundrel? This fucking secret nuclear weapon with the information passed down, how do you know about this? And
that's a very good question.
Yeah, we don't get an answer, do we?
So, just to ponder about it for a moment, because we do not get any grand reveal like, oh, I heard about that from so and so. Maybe a previous king talked about it to a previous warlord of the sea or previous government member. Maybe loose lips really do sink ships, and maybe they might sink an entire island the way this is going. But yeah, very curious in the nature of Pluton. It sounds like something out of like Star Trek, like, oh, the resources of Pluton are diminished. Oh, he's took all the Pluton. It's
or maybe your favorite streaming service, Pluto TV. They get the best Garfield and Friends stream you could hope for.
That can disintegrate my entire attention span in a single night, just like how entire islands can be disintegrated off Pluton, allegedly.
But King Cobra, he says he doesn't know where Pluton is or if it even actually exists. And Crocodile figured that and wants him to be taken to the Poneglyph instead. So maybe he thinks his Poneglyph will tell him where the Pluton's hiding.
Yes, and I believe the panel just following that, I had to kind of go back and read over this again earlier. Shaka's basically like, oh, I'm not going to take it anymore. And then that's the final panel in this volume that has any reference, I think, to what's going on with King Cobra, Crocodile, Vivi, etc.
So do you have a prediction for where that scene is going? And we also, like you were saying, he says, in 30 minutes, I'm going to set off a fucking cannon bomb that kills everybody in the war on the plaza.
Well, I guess if I had to make the best assumption or the best thought that I could, and I certainly hope this is not the case, but I mean, Shaka, he's got his jackal powers. I don't really know what that has to offer for the circumstances that they're in. I feel like he's going to have to do something drastic if he's going to do something. If there's not going to be, unless maybe he can get his hands on one of the other Straw Hat crew. But I mean, really, by the time they're all finished fighting here, all the Straw Hats have taken a pretty good beating. They're not really in the greatest condition. So if he's going and doing something drastic to try to get some Straw Hats up in the mix, they're all pretty injured already. I don't know if that's going to have any huge benefit. I mean, it's better than just by himself, but, you know, it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be enough to change the tides. Luffy at full strength got BTFO'd by Crocodile to start off with. So unless he can pull Luffy out of a, you know, I don't know how, but just get Luffy back over there. In any case, however he's going to go about it, I think he's at his breaking point. I think he's devaluing his life if he can use it for a greater purpose here to benefit the kingdom. I think he's ready to just blow up and do something. But I couldn't say exactly what that is because I feel like all I can see is sacrifice being his
from King Cobra?
Greatest. Or, well, I guess from Shaka. But
right.
At the same time, I mean, yeah, Cobra, you know, I suppose if he would do something that would incapacitate
he's already in the
himself.
fucking, like, crucifixion pose, so...
Yeah, because he's maybe Chaco will knock Cobra out just in the same way that the mayor, whose name escapes me, back in Orangetown got knocked
Boodle?
out. Yeah. Boodle got knocked out for his own safety. Maybe he'll knock Cobra out for his own safety. Maybe he'll give him a Mr. Prince chase again. Maybe he'll lead Crocodile. That worked for the Straw Hats to a degree to begin with. So any of that, I could see that happening, but I just feel like it's really a sink or swim, real like end of the line moment right here.
Oh yeah, these are the highest stakes by far in the series because like we're on a global scale at this point. Crocodile's plan, once he replaces the government of Alabasta and becomes their new king, and if he gets access to Pluton, what sounds like a fucking nuclear weapon, he plans on overtaking the actual world government and becoming like the king of the world with this war power, you know, might. So yeah, knocking out the king so that he can't take Croc to the Poneglyph, that might be for the greater good if this dude's trying to take over the world.
Yeah, and you know, I would hate to say that he would mortally wound Cobra or something like that, but I mean, if it was something that could possibly disrupt this greater scheme, that's definitely going to have a higher payload of damages in the future. I mean,
And are we to believe that
he
has, if this is passed down from king to king, Cobra has not passed this down to Vivi yet because she doesn't seem to know about the Pluton. So would the secret die with Cobra? Would anybody else be able to even recover this information?
And would that be a negative? This is something that seems to have such terrible destructive power. If we put the nukes down, folks, and we give love a chance.
That's right.
I'm just saying. But yeah, it seems like she's not aware. But I could see the angle of, all these innocent people have been tricked and they're all going to be brought to their deaths in a horrible battle thinking they're each other's enemies just because you want the damn Pluton. Well, now nobody's going to have it. Sorry, Cobra.
So the story ends with King Cobra committing suicide even, possibly. Wow, just like on YouTube. What a sad ending to that story. Should we hurry up and do the Zoro fight so that I can end this and go to the bathroom? Because there's not much to it. Like chapter 194 especially, basically the only note that I wrote is Zoro uses Baldy as an insult, which I personally I'm not offended by yet, but it's coming. So eventually that's not going to sit well with me.
Yeah, I would say that I guess more so than the Nami fight, I think the Zoro fight resembles Sanji's fight with Mr. 2 because really, so Mr. 1, he had the dice fruit, and it turns his entire body into a sword. He's just a solid steel, super razor sharp man, which is terrifying, by the way.
Yeah.
But even more than that, he has the ability to not just slash with his razor hands. He also can do things like turn his arms into motorized saws.
Buzz saws. And I wanted to comment on that because we've been playing fucking One Piece Grand Adventure and you can summon support characters. And this motherfucker, Mr. 1, flies around the map with his giant buzzsaw arms out in front of him, and he's faster than your character. So when somebody uses that, it's so fucking annoying to dodge those razor blade arms. He's just flying all over at you, and the hitbox is so big. So I hate those buzzsaws, and Zoro does too, because it basically, they bring him to the brink of death. Like legit death. Like he says he's like on the gate of Hades or something at one point. So this is much like Sanji, like you were saying, this is the most fucked up we've seen Zoro. And like even against Mihawk, it wasn't this bad.
Well,
he's the most bloody I've ever seen. Maybe I'm thinking of the live action where there's not one drop of blood to be seen. But this was gnarly. It was good nasty, good Nort.
I feel like if we compare this to the Mihawk fight, I think the Mihawk fight maybe less superficial with, maybe it was less bloody. It seemed like it did. Well, I guess we'll have to see like what his recovery time is. I feel like he hopped back up, maybe a little faster. But I want to say this though, actually, because what I was going to compare parallel to the Sanji fight was how Sanji, these are two evenly matched guys, and they kind of through these clashes. Some of that, what they call it, like sword art or sword lore, that would be like kick art or kick lore or whatever for the Sanji fight, gleaming those those little weak points. But I guess now that I think about it with Zoro, it was more of like a reduced to, in the same way how I was saying when Miss New Year's gets struck by the lightning, and then I think she's really operating on just like a fight or flight response, just very like adrenaline based response. I think that Zoro is his body, like physically with the damage that he's received, it is brought to this like baseline adrenaline fight or flight, but at the same time he's got enough wherewithal to think about this flashback to when he was a kid, and he's remembering some of the training from his master. And while he's in this almost sort of like in Red Dead Redemption I've been playing lately, there's something called Dead Eye where you like slow down and you can like mark a bunch of targets with your gun, and you're just like, I feel like he's in the sword version of that. Like everything's slowed down, like his perception, he's able to hear like the breathing of the steel, the porousness of the metal that Mr. 1 is crafted out of, the human element of it. He's able to detect this human element in a way that he wasn't able to before he sustained this damage that kind of brought him into this like almost battle zen, like just like, you know, and then when he's in this state, this like last stand, is probably the best way to put it, actually. Like, he's in like a last stand condition, and that just gives him the edge that he needs in his combat to be able to detect this weakness that he was not able to see otherwise in Mr. One. Then he hits him with the good old fashioned.
And towards the beginning of the fight, Zoro says, "I've been waiting to be driven into a corner like this so I could take it up a notch in strength." So really, Oda wants to push the idea that in order to improve and truly be the best, people need to be pushed beyond their limits, like beyond what capabilities they ever thought possible. And I think that's pretty relatable to a mangaka who has to put out a chapter of all this artwork every single week for 30 fucking years. Like, he's doing shit that I couldn't do. Like, this is an insane amount of work that he's putting in. And I think he uses characters like Zoro to really express, like, yeah, if you want to be the best, if you want to write the best manga of all time, like I'm literally doing right now, you just have to push yourself to limits you didn't think possible and just keep working hard. And Zoro here, the fight isn't about who is stronger, it's about his skill, and that a truly skilled swordsman chooses what to cut. And that's the lesson he's learning in his flashback of, oh, I could hit this piece of paper with a sword and not cut it all I want. And then I could, cut steel with the same blade. And it's when he's in this Zen mode that you were talking about that he truly evolves, pushed to the brink of death to get better and stronger. But my question to you is, Eggy, are you satisfied with all this as it's presented, or do we need more of an explanation? Because it seems like there's a bit of a supernatural element here. If he's like, he literally can find where his sword was buried in the rubble because he can hear it breathing. Like, is that a little too magical, or do we need an explanation, or are we happy with this?
I think maybe the way it's described as breathing is maybe a little strange, but what I could say is this, like, if you have such an affinity for your weapon, like, let's say if you went into I know you keep a clean house, so you wouldn't have rubble around or whatever. But like, let's just say
people usually have rubble. Isn't that from like a destruction sort of thing?
I'm just trying to like liken it to a if you have something that you have with you all the time, and you go into a disordered area, you can kind of, and I think maybe it goes about this like in a super speed due to like his condition or whatever. Maybe he's on some other, like, he does have his power bar is full or whatever. But you can look at this disordered area and kind of like almost meticulously, subconsciously like dissect the whole room and to where that item that you are so familiar with might be out of this. Okay, it wouldn't be there, wouldn't be. So I think just maybe something like that. He could look at the area that he was in, where things are broken, where they're not, and maybe glean the most likely place that his weapon would be. So maybe I would like to say, if we're looking facts and logic, that would probably be the base there. But then also he is in this sort of elevated state due to his physical condition, his drive, his desire to win and to become stronger, become better. Might give him a little superhuman edge, but if you kind of get what I'm getting, like kind of the looking for the needle in the haystack, able to kind of like mentally displace where it wouldn't be by familiarity with your needle of sorts, your weapon, your item.
Might work better in anime than in real life, but I do see what you're getting at. And one other note I wanted to make was after the fight with Mr. 3, where, I mean, Zoro essentially lost another fight. I wouldn't call it losing a sword fight and, breaking his promise. And even Mr. 1, I wouldn't really call this a sword fight. It's pretty unfair to characterize it like that, I think. But we do see him training with like some insane dumbbells between Little Garden and Alabasta, I think, in some chapter. And we see the results of that training where, like I was saying earlier, in Arlong Park, we were scaling Arlong as he can hold a whole house over his head. That's pretty strong. here Zoro has like a 3-story stone structure that he's holding over his head as a human. Like, probably 10 times the feat of what Arlong did with the fucking, like, straw house in Cocoa Village. Are you kidding me? Like, what do you think when you see this? And he throws it at the dude, and then it gets all diced up, of course, but what an incredible feat of strength.
Yeah, I mean, Luffy, when he's fighting Crocodile, he had lots to work with. He busted out all the super moves. Now I see Zoro being like 5 times as strong as leader of the Fishmen. All I'll say is Luffy better come correct here if he's coming back for Crocodile round 2. We better be seeing some level up on his part also. Everybody's kind of been getting their level ups here. Everybody's been kind of sharpening their abilities. But Zoro, yeah, this was like I kind of felt like, speaking of Bobo, what's that, Gasser? Mm-hmm. He's like looking off his eye, like his eyes are. That's how I was looking at. That's how I was looking at Zoro's strength here, like really just on another level. And I think it's the only way that he, even besides all of the reasons I mentioned previously, why he could take a sword and slice through a solid steel man and kill him. You got to have a certain level of strength to be able to do that.
True.
And I think he's reaching it.
Should we rank the fights so far real quick before we get out of here? I think you've already done 3 of them.
Yeah, let's see. So Chopper, yeah. I just want to say, I think that, the Luffy and Crocodile fight, I really appreciate how he did all the supers, and he, it's really something new with how Luffy does not win, and we see Crocodile's power is very great. So I might reconsider him in last place, but let me think here. I don't know.
I think I would have Nami's fight in last place because it's fun, the jokes work, but they do it too many times. It's too long. We've been over it. So do we agree with that? Nami last place, but it's still good. Yeah.
It's good. It's enjoyable, but critically, it is inferior, I think, to the other fights.
Yeah. And I'm partial to Usopp, but and he does get like his skull fractured, and we see like the X-ray vision. So yeah, everybody gets horribly fucked up and gored in the fight. So I guess I can't really rank it based on that.
All right, boom. I'm gonna say I'm going the opposite direction this time, from finale to top. I think I'm gonna say Nami, Luffy, Sanji, Usopp, Chopper, Zoro.
Wow, so Zoro gets top spot. This is the best fight in Alabasta so far. Anything else we want to say about it then? I feel like we might not have given it its due.
Well, maybe I'm having some power level bias here.
That's fine. You can like it for any reason you want.
I just think to me, it was just. Yeah, it was just really badass. I don't know, like, it was really badass. Just high level of intensity, high level of like, I guess the idea of like the Blade Man for some reason to me is more intimidating than like the Spike Woman, I guess. I
think I would go bottom Nami, then Sanji, then Usopp Chopper, Luffy Croc second place. Wait, no, I'm doing this wrong. Zoro second place, and then Luffy Croc number 1 for me, just because that was the most hype fight for me, and for all the reasons you gave, of course, unexpected ending. And then I love how gory and horrible it is for Zoro, and he refuses to show his back to the enemy, even when it's hopeless and he's getting cut up with razors. And then he has like a real fighter evolution, and it's kind of supernatural, and we don't really understand it, but it's cool. He dodges rubble and knows exactly where to stand, and you can hear the breathing of boulders and shit. It's crazy. So Sanji's fight was It's great, but I don't love that conclusion of tricking him to touch his face. Like, I get that he had to get horribly beaten up to establish that strategy, but...
Yeah, I think the Zoro fight just really brings, and he has all the experience to make this work for him. So yeah, I feel there's a bias here maybe on my part towards him, but it's just such raw, badass, just like, like just combat all the way. And it doesn't have some of the extra stuff that didn't really hit the same for me like some of these other fights did. They're all fine, but when I came down to it, the finale of the volume, the real just badass and Blade v. Blade, violent destruction, yes.
Do we have any final predictions for the next volume, the rest of Alabasta, anything in One Piece? Will Alabasta end in the next volume, Iggy?
Well, I think it's going to have been 2 volumes ago that I said, I kept on saying, it's going to be one more volume, and it kept being one more volume. And I said, I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to say it's going to be like 2 more volumes now. I think we're going to be reaching that in volume 22. So, I'm going to stick with what I was feeling like back then. I'm not going to change up now because, I got this new information or whatever the case might be. I'm sticking back to what I said in episode or 2 ago. I think 22 is going to be the great conclusion for at least the combat. I could see maybe 23, then we would have a little after effects of like, all right, this is what we're doing now. But I think 22 is going to be the conclusion of this combat, because I think we've gone through all the top Alabasta members. I think we're going to come in maybe to 22, and there's going to be some of this discussion about this Pluton and some of that going on, and then maybe Chaka's going to do whatever he needs to do to get us into the second half of that volume. We're going to be having the Crocodile fight.
One thing I forgot to mention is Crocodile is completely under the impression that Luffy is dead, and Miss All Sunday is right next to him this whole scene, and she's letting him think that. What do we think about her? Is she going to do anything else to defect from Crocodile? Because she's clearly keeping a secret from him. A pretty big fucking secret.
All right, here's what I could see happen also. So we go into volume 22, and then Chaka, he's all like, he's about to freak out, and then maybe she, in her way that she's done before, kind of drops like, oh, well, I guess maybe that the Straw Hat Captain could come back. I guess, he's still alive. And then maybe everyone's like, oh, what are you doing? And then it's like a whole thing. And maybe in this like chaos of her dropping this little trolling, then maybe there's something to be done there. Maybe somebody gets away, or some signal is sent out or overheard. Maybe Usopp and Chopper are just finally making their way up there since they had their first fight there. I can see that leading into, or being the catalyst for the developments that we need in 22, which I hadn't previously considered until you mentioned that, but I think that that's something that certainly is possible. And maybe she'll take Crocodile's attention, or maybe he'll just hear that and try to blow it off. Oh, I know what I did to him. I know he's, I wouldn't worry about it.
I got 2 more questions for you, Iggy. Okay. If Chapter 100 ended the East Blue Saga and introduced the character of Dragon, will we get any parallel with Chapter 200 coming up next volume? Will any milestone happen? Will it be the end of the second great epic saga? Anything at all for Chapter 200?
Well, without looking at it, it's not the end of the volume, so I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I guess halfway through, it looks like.
Well, I guess, that would time up perfectly with maybe that's somehow Luffy's back or whatever. However, they're going to begin the crocodile fights, the grand crocodile battle. Maybe that's what it's going to be for 200. Like, the last panel of 199 is going to be like, all right, let's finish this once and for all right now. Nothing, nothing else will ever matter from here on out. Let's go.
Okay, and finally, Iggy. Every major arc so far has ended with a new member joining the crew. is anybody joining from Alabasta? I know at the beginning of the arc I asked you, is there any hope for Vivi or Karu joining, and you said no. Have you changed your mind? Are there any other candidates? Are we going to leave here with the same people?
Well, I would still believe that at the conclusion of Alabasta, once everything is settled, which I hope it is, hopefully we don't blow up the island and everybody dies or whatever, but I think Vivi and Karu are going to stay with the kingdom. I would still believe that to be the case. And, well, if I had to guess if somebody was going to come with the crew, I have to say there was a little spoilings that I've had here or there throughout the, adjacent, just cultural spoilings, you might say. And, well, they would maybe direct me to think that a certain woman that we've been seeing might be a part of the crew. To some degree, I wouldn't even know how much, if it's another Vivi situation where it's like, oh, until we get to here. But I don't know, for our virgins out there, I might not want to say what I've heard, but
you might not want to. But we'll see if that happens in this arc or in some future arc or even at all. Who knows what Eggy's talking about?
Yes. But anyway, I guess just for a yes or no, I think that there is going to be an additional, or at least someone who's not with the crew now, I think will be with the crew moving into the next arc. I think that I still believe Vivi and Karu. I think they're going to stay with the Alabastan Kingdom after this is hopefully resolved.
Okay, folks, I think that is it for Volume 21 of the One Piece Eggheads Virgin Book Club podcast. Egg, do you have anything you want to plug?
Well, if rumble.com/c/EggyWet, they got gifted subs are a thing now, and some of my greatest supporters have been gifting subs to many people in the chat, so you don't have to watch 12-minute long ivermectin tinfoil hat ads. So, you know what, if you stop by, smash that like button and talk a couple words in the chat. I don't know how the gifting works, if they actively choose certain people or if it's random, but it could be you, so think about it.
All right, folks, we'll see you next week with Volume 22 and Chapter 200.